Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and this is another episode of My Story. These have been quite popular and people have kept asking me to do them, so I shall. I'm in my kitchen today because I wanted to spread out, because in this episode of My Story I've got some pictures to show you. Finally, I've managed to dig some out, so that's really good. If you remember on the last episode, and I'll leave a link to it, of course, I was talking about this this 16mm film that I was making with a bunch of other very lovely and talented people, called A Cry for Help. And this was quite a big adventure, and I wasn't quite clear what the name that we'd given our little film unit. It was Sussex Film Productions. It's all come flooding back. However, I'm indebted to Lynn Saunders, who got in touch on the comments and said, hey, I was the makeup lady, and it was my daughter Natalie who was the star of the show. And that's absolutely true. So thank you so much, Lynn, for getting involved and for reminding me of those things. And also I'm indebted to Mandy Austin, who was my sort of right-hand lady, my PA, if you like, or first assistant on that production, and a subsequent other that I'm going to tell you about shortly, who I think last year it was, we met up briefly. I was out filming and she said, oh, I've got some bits and memorabilia from the days that we did the filming and stuff. She said, would you like them? I said yes. And I must have put them down somewhere, you know what it's like. I put them down and then I couldn't find them for a bit, but I have found them now. So before we get on to the next part, I just wanted to share some of the things that I found regarding that 16mm film, A Cry for Help, in which, if you remember, we filmed in a burnt down house just off the A27, with the police turning up and smoke machines and lights and all of that. So I've actually found here the original treatment. Now this isn't the script. I've probably got the script somewhere in my archive, such as it is. But this is the treatment, which is, I guess, the outline of the story, is what you would call it. And it's fascinating. I've been reading through that, and it's fascinating to have a look at that. And actually, I think it would make quite an interesting book, or a short story, or indeed a film. It may be one of those things that one could look at making again. You know, with the internet being on your side, you could probably get all these things together. It would be great to do something like that, some big projects. So who knows? It may be resurrected from the grave. I've also found, or within this, Mandy had sent me a couple of pages of our original schedules. So these are the things. Now, because I'd worked in television, I knew how professional schedules were laid out. And so I was producing these and sending them to the crew and to the cast. And it's interesting here because one refers exactly to that late night shoot that we were talking about, and it does say at the bottom, this is a night shoot, wrap up warm, and it lists the people and all of those things that we want to organise. But the other one is curious because it says, and obviously didn't film this, I've got no recollection of this, and I don't even remember this in the script, so that's a bit odd. But this was a place, it says, location is a disused property opposite the shops in Fontwell Village. And we didn't film this, but I had intended for a fire engine, a 1940s fire engine, probably a Green Goddess or something, and an ambulance, and it just says they're to be arranged. So I must have had a contact with somebody who was going to offer their services with one of these things. So that's fascinating. But anyway, so that was the schedule. And finally, I haven't got any photos. I'm not sure if Lynn has some photos, or any of the ex-cast or crew that worked on it have any photos. It'd be great to see them. But this, oh my God, this was a picture or a cutting from the local paper, 1992 it was, and it says lights, cameras, action, and it talks about the intentions of the video, and it shows me with the Aeroflex BL camera, And it credits Ollie Johnson as the cameraman, but it's a picture of me with my awful old glasses, my daddy glasses, as my kids used to call it. But yeah, no, that's me in the picture, and that big heavy camera that we used to hire. So yeah, that's interesting to see. So anyway, we did that, and as I said before, it never really got finished, and I'd like to try and get whatever we have got of it onto digital and see if we couldn't get at least a few scenes of that, because I think in many ways I owe it to all the crew and the cast who worked on it to get something finally out. That would be rather nice, but I think money ran out and various things happened, and you know, all good intentions, but it was a very costly business with 16mm film. But on the result, working on that, I was approached, curiously, by a chap who worked for Tarmac Roadstone. Now, just up the road from where I live, for the benefit of those who don't know the area at all, there's a quarry, a sand quarry, in which for years they've been extracting sand. And they've had problems with kids going in and thinking that it's an adventure playground. And a gentleman from whose name I'm really sorry, I cannot remember now what his name was, very nice bloke, and he got in touch and he said, I'm interested in having a video made to show the kids the dangers of breaking into the sand quarry and playing about. We want to take it round as a public information film to schools. Would you be interested? So I said, well, I'd be interested, yeah, absolutely. So we went to the quarry. He took me around the quarry and I had a look at the place, and he showed me all the various things and the points, the particular two dangerous points. One was this pontoon that came out onto a pond, which I don't know quite what the water was used for. Perhaps it was for cleaning the sand, or it was water that was extracted when they dig holes, it just came there, whatever. Anyway, there were these two great big ponds with pontoons in them, and he said the trouble is kids can muck about on the pontoons, fall in and drown, and that's our worry. We want to warn them. I said, well, quite right. And then there was another area where sand had been extracted, and as it starts to settle, it is quite deep, and it's sort of an unnatural beach, if you like, of basically quicksand. It's not designed to be quicksand, but it's how the sand sort of settles. It's covered in water and it just becomes quicksand, but it is actually quite deep. And so he said, you know, the worry is that kids could go in there and get stuck, or worse, they could obviously asphyxiate when they go under. So he said they're the two main areas, but really we just want to put them off coming on, because we've got all these long conveyor belts as the sand is being extracted and dumped on conveyor belts and taken across the site, and kids get up on them and play and all of that. So I said, yeah, no, love to do it. He said, be interested in having a video. And I said, well, he said, we've got a budget of about £2,000. So I said, look, I'll shoot this on film. I was very keen to shoot on film. I love film. Film is fantastic. And we had been doing our thing on film. And I thought, well, you know, maybe this is a way of earning a bit of money. But of course, in the end, the process cost about £2,000 in order to buy the film, hire the camera, and have the labs develop the film and all the extra processes that we had to do, and end up with it on a VHS that they had. So nobody made any money on this, but that was fine, because we thought, well, it's a showpiece for one thing, and what an amazing showpiece it would be. And also it was a bit of an adventure, filming in a quarry, because he said, well, I can arrange for a fire engine, I can arrange for an ambulance, and I can arrange for the police underwater diving unit to be involved in this production. So I thought, brilliant, this is going to be fantastic. So I went away. Now, I was one of the chaps who was very much involved in the cry for help. Was a chap who was sort of behind the scenes and had been doing the sound recording, and his name was Simon Edwards. Very nice chap. And he was very interested in getting involved in this, and I was very thankful, because it's always good to have someone to work with. So we came up with this concept that what we would do is we would show these two children, these two boys, who break in They treat the place as an adventure playground, absolutely having fun, climbing on the conveyor belts, running, throwing sand at each other, cycling about on their bikes and having a laugh. And then they climb onto the pontoon. They're mucking about. One falls in and he can't get out. The other can't swim, so he can't actually save him, and gets scared, runs off. The one in the water disappears under the water, presumed drowned. And then the one that ran off, he runs across the silt and ends up sinking, and the fire brigade is called. I think we had a warden who was there who raises the alarm. He hears the noises and he sort of calls for the police and the fire brigade and all of that. So that was basically the scenario. The fire brigade come and the divers go down. They can't find the kid, and I think they'd find the body, and then the fire brigade extract the kid out of the sand. Well, that was the story. We made up a storyboard. Now you'll have to excuse my terrible drawings, which highlighted it. So Simon and I worked on this quite hard, on each little sequence that we would go, that would tell the story in the most interesting and snappiest way, that would get kids who were watching it fascinated by the whole thing. So we put that together and we hired the gear. And of course, I approached a number of the people who'd worked on the Sussex film productions and said, would you like to get involved? And of course they did. So Mandy, again, was my right-hand woman, as it were, my PA. So she looked after all this and kept me on time and told me what scenes we were going to do next, and anything that I needed. I believe Ollie was the cameraman, and another chap whose name I sadly cannot remember, and I wish I could, who was the DP. He was the director of photography, but he didn't operate the camera. He was doing the exposures and things, although I think he did do some filming. And I did some filming with a Canon Scopic, which is a little 16mm camera. It was interesting. There was a sequence at one point where we wanted to see the fire brigade coming in and make a bit of a drama out of it, and I wanted to get the blue light right in the foreground on the top of the vehicle and seeing it drive down. Well, this was quite dangerous. People were saying, no, we can't, you can't film that. So I said, well, I'll film it. So I climbed up on this thing, and I believe somebody was holding onto my legs. I can't remember who it was now, but and we shot this thing as we went down, and there was probably a couple of other things, but anyway, Mandy had given me the pictures, which I've been showing you there, really, of some of the issues that we had and some of the adventures pulling out one of the kids from the sand, which was almost real, because the sand really did suck you down. On the pontoon, of course, filming how that was going to be done. The kids wore wetsuits underneath their clothes, so that when they fell in, and they were on lines of safety. We had the police diving unit who were there, and so they made sure that everything was going to be safe. I mean, it was a terrific experience, absolutely brilliant, loved it very much. And then after the filming, as I said, it was all on 16mm, and I had this Steenbeck, which I told you about, this flatbed Steenbeck. And all the rushes came back, and you put together the work print, which became the master. And it's raining now heavily outside. I don't know if you can hear that. And you would then send that off to the lab, and they would end up with a master print, which you would look at and approve. And then you would have your copies, which were put onto VHS. Now there was another process in between that, where we had to get all the sound, the music, the sound effects, and any dialogue that we wanted. And of course that's an intermediate process. All done on film is a very long-winded and laborious thing, so different to how one would do it now. But at some point I will, of course, get these transferred from 16mm. I've still got the 16mm somewhere. And get it on. I just need to sort of do it, really. But that was a real test bed for at me because from that project, the same team worked on another project, which was the pilot of a kids' TV series called Snug and Cozy, and I'll tell you about that in another video. And that was, I mean, it was a golden era, I suppose, in those early 90s when I was still doing the bill. I was still doing juggling jobs, paying the rent, bringing up the children with my wife Dawn, and then working on these big projects on 16mm, which was fantastic. And a whole load of events, you know, sort of took over. And of course, it was at that time when video was coming, but it wasn't quite yet the digital video that we had. Anyway, these cuttings and things have been great memories, and if any of the past crew are watching or stumble across this, do get in touch. It'd be lovely. It'd be great to have a little reunion, wouldn't it, of those days, especially if I can actually get these things so that there is something to show on digital format. That would be great. And of course, I can only remember so much, so I'm hoping I put a faithful thing. But it wasn't just me, it was a team effort, and everybody was brilliant. And we were in this quarry, and I remember that, I can't remember if it was 2 days or 1 day now, it possibly was 2 days, and it was blisteringly hot. And of course you're in this sand pit with all this sand going around. I was so worried that sand was going to get inside the camera and scratch the film. We had all these short ends from the BBC, and we had changing bags, and if we came to the end of one roll of film, we would have to put that in a bag and get the next one on the spool and load the camera and all of this. I mean, it was a rigmarole, but my goodness, it was great fun. Fond, happy memories of those days running around a big giant sand pit. So yeah, all good fun. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little reminiscence. There'll be more, of course, in my story on this channel. Don't forget to follow, like and subscribe if you haven't. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed all this nonsense, and I will be out and about soon. We're just really waiting for the weather to improve. We've had such a dreadful May, but I believe that we're going to have a lot of sunshine coming soon, so there'll be no excuse. Anyway, all the best. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.